And I see a lot of familiar faces on here. Hello, everybody. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, we have a great group tonight here.
Man, it
So,
really is.
welcome to PACA II, and we're back to the sprinting world. We've had a few weeks with the field events, and now we're getting back to the love of many of you with the sprints and get going that Vince Anderson is joining us. And of course, Vince, if you know anything about track and field, you know Vince. And he has, been working with collegiate programs for many years, either at Houston or Tennessee or A&M, but now is a post-collegiate coach, and he's working with a group of athletes, getting them ready for worlds and Olympics and everything that he can share with us as we go on. So, Vince, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Happy to do it. Thanks for asking. Hope
No
we have
problem.
fun.
No problem. And as usual, we have a lot of new people on here too. If you have questions for Vince, just put the raise your hand up or put it in the chat and I'll monitor that. So we want it to be a dialogue as much as possible. I'll start off with a few questions, but then I'm counting on you guys to jump in and ask questions. So we've got sprints, we've got relays. Now we're not trying to do US relay necessarily, but we're trying to just anything in the sprint world here. And Vince, I guess what my first question for you is going to be, as a college coach, what were some of the first technical issues that you ran into with college freshmen? Some of the technical weaknesses, if you will, that
Well,
you found.
no human being knows how to accelerate. Zero. I coached for 34 years, and every single person that came to me could not accelerate at all. They were all spinners. They didn't know how to push and displace. And they associated the race, the 100-meter race pattern, with absolute frequency, which of course it's not. So that's number one. And then number two, they don't know how to sprint at maximal velocity when there's no longer a body lean. They don't know how to sprint properly. We've developed a nation of striders because the word exists on the street that a long stride is good. And a long stride, of course, is not good unless your ball of support foot is landing under your center of mass. So this most athletes don't know where the strike point is out of a tall running posture. They all cast their ankle open to try to claim ground, and there's a gap between their knee when their foot hits the track. So you have to teach them how to accelerate, and you have to teach them how to sprint at max velocity because I've never met any single human being, and I obviously at the collegiate level, I'm getting a pretty high grade of recruit in.
Yeah, definitely.
And then when I go, of course, because I'm not unfamiliar with grassroots, I go to youth meets a lot and I'm appalled. And I go to junior high school meets a lot and I'm appalled. And I go to high school meets a lot and I'm appalled at I'm like, where is the instruction? What I think happens a lot of times, people just let people go. They assume they know how to accelerate, they assume they know how to sprint, and they accept just what they get. But my job as a track coach, I'm essentially an elementary school physical education teacher. I have to teach people how to move properly.
Mhm. And how do you approach that? Because as somebody working with high school now, and a lot of these people on tonight are high school or let's say mid-major colleges, so they are getting the developmental athlete. How would you approach that, or what should we be doing?
Well, okay, for example, on the first day of training, we begin with acceleration development and we continue acceleration development through the last meet of the season. So we work on acceleration development very, very stringently as the backbone of our program. Dan Paff says acceleration development is the foundational element of all running activity, not some running activity, all running activity. So it's a skill like hitting a baseball or dribbling a basketball. Uh, and so skills take a long time to develop. So if you're going to acquire the skill over the course of a season or a few seasons, you have to start very, very early in the training program with acceleration development from the first day, because you don't get it in a day or two. You have to really plan for it, plan early, do it often. The degree of density that you use in planning acceleration development is very high throughout every week of the season. Now, main theme of it may not be the main theme of every week, but it starts off as the main theme. And then as you stabilize, you continue to review it even when you go to other kind of emphases.
Hmm.
Uh, and so we start early sprinting, we work a lot on acceleration development and sprinting, and we probably work on tempo running, i.e., endurance or conditioning. We probably do that once to twice a week, sometimes 3 times in a 2-week cycle, depending on what time of year it is.
And so, can you take us through what it is, like drills or what type of activities teach the acceleration?
Well, this is wish I had have some YouTube video. I try to make this
Is,
accessible.
is there somebody
Um,
you want me to pull up?
uh, well, I don't really know how to do that. What I do, go to my
Oh no,
video
I'll
files.
do it. I'll do it while you're talking if you tell me who.
Yeah, well, let me just verbally go through it
Okay.
first. The
Okay.
key is you can't teach acceleration at all when there's starting blocks around. So from the time on the first day of practice, we'll do accelerations from either a crouch start or a 3-point stance without blocks, or a 4-point stance without blocks, depending on uh, if the athletes know how to get in the proper on your mark and set position. So I quickly do a review of how to properly get in an on your mark position, and how to properly get into a set position, how to properly get into a 2-point standing crouch start. Because if the initial stance is not there, it's going to compromise the quality of the rep. So uh, that's a very brief, very quick introduction, say 5 to 10 minutes max, and then we get right to sprinting. We'll do something like 2 sets of 10, 20, 30. So we'll run 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30, all in flats. I make them put their front foot on the start line because I want to dissociate any connotations of coming out of the blocks or being behind the start line. I just want them to learn how to push. And learning how to push feels significantly different and feels significantly slower than coming out and just spinning your wheels rapidly. And it's an acquired skill, again, that takes time, you know, uh, months, even for a kinesthetically aware person. It could take years for someone who's not kinesthetically aware. So you have to work at it all the time and keep at it. Um, so that's uh, the main thing. Let me see if I can.
Let me make you co-host here. Yeah, because I think that's part of the concern sometimes, at least what I hear with some of them, some of the coaches around is, okay, I want to teach acceleration, but how? or
Okay.
transition.
I'll give, you have to put yourself in the mindset of being a elementary school physical education teacher. And every day you have to ask yourself, how can I get these movement points apart? So, uh, excuse me, how can I get these movement points across to the students I'm trying to teach? And you have to think like an elementary school PE teacher. I mean, Mike McFarland, the great Canadian hurdles coach, he was literally an elementary school PE teacher. You have to use that mindset. These kids don't know how to accelerate, they don't know how to run. You have to teach them.
Mhm.
So, a good basic sequence is first of all, can you see this?
Not yet. I just see our screen, and you should be able to share.
Okay,
I put that on there.
got you. Okay, so let me click that. I'm looking at the bottom choices. Would that be under more? Because I don't see
Oh,
share in the.
it's a green button with a little arrow. It's by reaction, kind of. Do you see that?
Okay. Yes,
Okay. We do have one question. I don't know if
yes.
it's time to ask or not, but what are some cues that you use to get them to push other than push?
Push. Okay, I'll show you, and this is what
Okay, good.
I get them to lean against a wall or lean against a fence and push the fence over. Any child can do that. Any human being can do that. Can you see this?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. I'm
Is it
clearly doing something.
is this one of your YouTube videos?
Yes.
Okay, let's see
It's
if
it's a PowerPoint presentation.
oh, okay. I didn't know whether I could pull
So
it up.
share and
And then you should have like a white screen. Okay, there we go.
okay. So
Now we have a list of all
how
your,
about that?
we have a list all, okay, now we're getting there. Yes.
Okay. All right. So all right. So the first thing you have to realize, no one the biggest problem is no one works hard enough, no one pushes hard enough. They push as hard as they think they need to, or they push as hard as they're used to pushing. They're not pushing as hard as they can, and this is essentially what you're looking at right here. Now, the violence of that is shocking. I mean, her back knee is completely locked. That's a decision right there. Now, this is an elite athlete at the World Championships, of course, but she's not doing that because she's an elite athlete. She's doing that because she's made the decision she's going to go as hard as she can. So the first thing you have to teach them is like, this is the whole level of effort that you're used to applying in the 100. Like, it's something greater than that. You really have to find the level. Notice she's off the pedal and she's in the air
Mhm.
from one extension. Like she's not even on the ground yet at step one. Okay, so that's the kind of violence required. She's putting her whole soul into that. Literally, the expression "put your back into it," is like that's exactly correct. like you gotta go, man. And they don't know that because they're used to just seeing people sort of walk out of their blocks,
Mm.
as best they can, or fall out of their blocks as best they can. And I mean, it's just a whole different level of commitment. And you have to speak to them like that, and you have to show them film like this to begin to break through the crust of the all the hundreds and dozens and all the hundreds of reps they've done before they've ever gotten to you. You have to start breaking through their consciousness into new movement patterns.
Okay. Now we have a question. Nate, you want to go on or unmute and ask Coach?
Yeah. So that's what I was really wondering was you talking about the proper setup for acceleration because if they don't set it up properly, it's not going to really work. I mean, it'll kind of fall apart from there. So my question was, what does that proper setup look like? What do the positions look like for a 3 point, 2 point starts?
Okay, I'll
Um,
take you through that whole thing. Just give me a sec here. So, all right. So the first thing is, so what do you do? Okay, so you lean someone against the fence and you say, "All right, I want you." First of all, you post them up. You say, "Okay, I want you to post up from your support ankle through your ear should be a straight line. Now, I just want you to push the fence over." And that's as simple as pushing down through the recovering shin. So, she's pushing her support foot down into the ground to push herself up, and she pushes the recovering shin down into the ground to push herself up. Pushing is all pushing down into the ground to push yourself up. So this was a baseball player, knows nothing about sprinting, but I told him what to do, and he did it beautifully. I said, "Okay, all I want you to do is push the fence over." And he did a beautiful job. All the alignments are there. Any elementary sprinting is not difficult. It's just not made clear. The If there's any instruction, a lot of times, like an exercise that I suggest for everybody, ask your students, what is the race plan for the 100 meters? Explain that to me, and you'll be appalled what you get. You know, you may not get an answer at all, or the answer you'll get will be extremely vague, or it will be extremely complicated, neither of which are sufficient. Because we need such violence, the there's a inverse relationship between complexity and intensity. So the more intense I want something, the more simply it needs to be explained.
Hmm.
So if you give them a complicated race plan for the 100, like, okay, I want you to push it, well, into your acceleration phase, and then I want you to go into the transition phase, and then you'll be upright at your max velocity phase, and then I want you to maintain that, and then you're going to decelerate towards the end, but hold your posture as good as possible. That's exactly what they already think the race plan is, and that's the kind of choppy effort you'll get. Those race designations are the things that are parsed by biomechanists experientially to the athlete inside their body. They're only doing a singular thing. Usain Bolt pushes for 100 meters. Okay. As the great Jim Van Oudegem says, there is no such thing as the drive phase. The entire race is the drive phase. You push for 100 meters and only the body lean changes. And when you get vertical, you push straight down to push yourself up. You push the whole way.
And that's key, you guys. If you didn't get that, again, it's the whole way.
So I've never once, ever in my life, nor have I known a sprint coach who has ever said, You push too hard. Those words have never been spoken because it's not possible to push too hard. I've never heard a coach say you push too long. I'm praying for the day when I have to say either of those things, but I've been coaching. This is my 40th year. I've finished 39 years, and I've never once said you push too hard or you push too long. I'm always trying to get them to push harder, and I'm always trying to get them to push longer. And, I've coached some elite athletes, but remember this, whether you're coaching children or elite athletes, you still coach them the same way in terms of how you frame the challenge and frame the objective. All right. So to go back to the question about, okay, so like I say, any kid can do this. Okay. So that's one way to teach pushing. Okay. Another way is you start out and you say, okay, you teach them to post first because they're going to be in a posted position out of the pedals, as we saw with that Jamaican woman in the first video we showed. So very simple question. Very simple task. I demonstrate to show them what I want, but I say off your front foot, you're going to be in a body lean. So I need you to feel that body lean in a stationary position. So post up for me. So from her ankle through her ear is a straight line. Perfect. Now, did you know what a post feels like? I want you to post up and push down into the ground. Try to push the wall over from a marching posture. Nothing heavy. This is elementary school physical education. Push the wall over. Just push the wall over. Now that you have that idea, pushing in a 100 meter, and we teach everybody the 100-meter acceleration pattern because it's the mother of all acceleration patterns. So even if you're, say, a 400 hurdler or a 400-meter athlete, they have to be completely versed in the 100-meter acceleration pattern. All of my athletes run the 200, and most of them run the 100. Okay. So even like Phyllis Francis, she was world champion at the 400, but she ran some 100s for us. You have to know how to run 100 and practice it, even if you never run it at a meet. So, like if I were to tell my 400 hurdlers this weekend, you're running, 100, they'd know how to do that because we teach it, we talk about it, we install it, we practice it. So now in real time, it takes a long time to push and come up. So I kind of demonstrate what we're doing, and then they follow suit. And in real time, this is about how the body posture changes. It takes a long, long, long time. So you've got to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing the wall over.
Muna is not happy there, huh?
So experientially, they're not used to attending and giving forth that kind of sustained effort. And so at the very beginning, and this is like in the first day before we start running, Like you have to install the idea that once you start pushing, you're going to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. And only the body lean is going to change as you push yourself out of your initial stance into a tall running posture. And this gives them a sense of it. And it doesn't take a lot of explanation. You just have to give them something to hold on to that's proper, something to work on that's specific and is aligned with the requirements of the event.
So when you say push the wall over and she's, pushing it and then gradually coming up to a more vertical,
Yes.
is that just from the pushing or is that after so many?
No, when you're against a wall, you're going to have to consciously. Now, when you push without, okay, if I take the wall away and I run an acceleration and I push, you will rise almost organically.
Okay.
Okay. Notice I said almost organically, So okay. So when you with the wall in front of you, you have to consciously bring your torso up like that. Because remember, I demonstrated for her earlier how long this takes and how gradual you have to be. And like, don't get in this big hurry. Like, this takes time. And okay, so without the wall, though, the rising will happen almost naturally if you keep pushing.
Okay.
But you have to give a sense, a temporal cue in real time about the durations we're talking about here, because every kid thinks that, I mean, it just happens so quick, and it doesn't. It takes forever. I mean, if you look at Bolt's 958, you can't unsee that. Like it takes forever to unfold before they get vertical and they start stepping down. Like it's not a quick thing. Like it builds and 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 builds, before they're up vertical. And then when they get vertical, they step down very violently to push themselves straight up. Because at that point, the horizontal is inherent. You've established momentum with the push, with the drive, and then you step down. So once they have that, and you have to tell them to do this in slow motion, you have them do this assisted, but they have to do it in slow motion, or you'll get your nose broken, and you don't want your nose broken.
So what's the cue that you're giving her there?
Just
Just drive up?
just drive, push into the ground with both feet in slow motion.
Okay.
Then unassisted. Now she should have a pretty good idea what she's trying to do. One more, please. Now, in answer to the question, I'm backtracking on this, but question, what is the proper stance? Okay, that's the proper on your mark position for any human being. And three things have to be present. And it doesn't matter if you're 6'6" or if you're 3'10" tall. It's all body size proportionate. Number one, your front shin has to be parallel to the surface of the track. Number two, the back thigh is grounded and vertical. Number three, your shoulders have to be directly over your hands. That is the only on your mark position. There's not two or three. If you want, you can ground the front knee if you want, but the proportions don't change. You have to get in this position first if you do ground both knees. And I'm not going to get into not a grounded front knee and the non-grounded front knee right now. The grounded front knee is a Tony Wells development, and all Tony Wells and all of Tony Wells's devotees have the front knee grounded, meaning both knees are grounded.
Yeah.
But this is crucial. The distances, the anthropometric distances are the same. We're only talking about getting the knees on the ground or not. Okay. So that's the on your mark position. And the reason that's so important is you cannot get in a proper set position unless on your marks is proper.
Why do some coaches want them leaning forward and not having the shoulders over the hands? Is that just improper?
Okay, if both knees, try this yourself. I love to do this myself because if you do have both knees grounded, the shoulders will be forward at on your mark.
Okay.
Like you cannot keep your shoulders over your hands if you ground both knees. So now, were you talking about it on your marks or at set or both?
Both.
Okay, now at set, all you do out of that on your marks position is you rise until your front knee joint, and that's all you concentrate on internally, the athlete. They just focus on their front knee and they rise until their front knee gets to 90 or 90 to 95 degrees. I'd say she's about 95. Okay. You lock in there. That's exactly the right height. It's not too high. It's not too low. And notice when you do that, when your front knee is about 90 or 95, your back leg is about 135 and the back thigh is vertical. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, notice her shoulders are no longer directly over her hands. Her shoulders are now an inch or two forward of her hands. And that's desirable because when you do put pedals behind her, she'll slightly unseat better out of her pedals. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we've kind of caught up, or at least I attempted to catch up on two of the questions, which were, okay, well, where do you begin? How do you start? That gives you some basic physical education ideas, and you might have a better idea. You're only limited in your imagination by how to introduce these movement ideas initially to get them doing it properly from day one.
Do any of you have questions here as Vince has gone through this? Because again, I want it, if you've got questions, now's the time.
I have a quick question, not necessarily about the position, but you were saying like you want them to push the entire way. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Do you have an opinion on how fast that push should be versus them being patient, or is it just however long?
Okay, all right. It should be completely patient. I never talk about speeding anything up ever. In fact, I spend all my time telling them to take, because there's a concentration factor in all this. They just can't wait to get to running. They just can't stand it. Like, okay, like they'll push for 2 or 3 steps and then just start hauling ass. And like there's more to it than that. Look at Bolt's 958. Watch it. Burn it into your consciousness. Okay? You can't unsee that. Okay? He's not in any hurry at all. He lets the run develop and you can see it. It's not hard to see. It's not inaccessible. If you watch Carl Lewis sprint, he lets the run develop. He's not in any hurry. He lets it happen. He just stays violent the whole time. He just keeps being violent through the full range of motion, and the run unfolds like a flower blossoming. But everybody wants to force the run. They're like, no, there's no way this can be right. I'm going to push for 2 steps and I'm going to haul ass. I'm going to push for 10 meters and I'm going to haul ass. Like they just won't let the run develop. But look at what Bolt does. Look at what Carl Lewis does. And Bolt runs Lewis's pattern. He's just a better athlete than Lewis, which is saying something because Lewis is maybe the greatest athlete of all time, and Bolt he's taller, longer, stronger even than Lewis was, and Lewis was a tall, big man. So you have these two extraordinary athletes letting the run unfold, and it's magical to watch, and it's very bracing on the consciousness when you see this. And that's the way to run 100. And I show it to my athletes to help them in their evolution because they can see it too. And they have to have an idea what it is they're trying to do. And the idea of what they're trying to do needs to be biomechanically correct, you know. And by the way, these aren't my ideas. People way smarter than track coaches figured all this out. I mean, Coach Tellez was a master teacher of acceleration. He was a biomechanist. Ralph Mann, you know,
Yeah.
the commonality of sprinters, the commonality of elite sprinters, they're all hitting this essentially the same positions as, you know, Ralph Mann discovered in his models. You know, so there's really only one race. There's really one biomechanical model that we're all trying to conform to. And the closer one conforms to that biomechanical model, the faster one runs versus themselves. So if I'm a slow person and I run 13.5 and I start hitting these biomechanical positions, I'll run 13.3. I will excel myself. Everybody gets faster the closer they come to these biomechanical positions. So to answer your question, I spend all my time telling them, push more, push more, push more. That's not, and a lot of times you know, because I can tell when they stop pushing, I can see it. I'll ask them, walk to the spot where you stopped pushing. And damn, they'll walk exactly to it. I'll go, yep. Why did you stop pushing there? There's nothing magic about that spot. You have to push through that, beyond that, and keep pushing. That is not the place to stop pushing and start hauling ass. That place doesn't exist on the track.
We've got another, or Emil, is that all you had? Did you have any other question for our coach right now?
That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay. John, you want to ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you. Following up on Nate's kind of question too, regarding 2-point starts. Do you have any pictures or videos? How do you coach?
Yeah, I'm going to go through the whole thing. Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
great.
I'm going to go through the whole thing. So when we teach accelerations now, we start practicing in the second week of October. Okay. And on the first day of practice, we do acceleration, something like 10, 20, 30. Okay. Sorry, 2 sets of 10, 20, 30. Now that's not very much, but the reps are all out. Like it's 10 as hard as you can go, 20 as hard as you can go, 30 as hard as you can go. And then again, another set of the same thing. But it's the first day. We don't limit the first day by not sprinting. We limit the first day by keeping the intensity very, very high and teaching the right movements. But we keep the volumes very, very low. Okay. So the other point I wanted to make is this. There's not a starting block in sight when we begin teaching acceleration, okay? Because athletes' brains cannot function in the presence of metal. You have to take the metal away. You have to take the starting blocks away. And everything we do in these videos, nothing is accidental. Everything you see is deliberate. So from the time we start from a 2-point crouch stance to the time they're lining up against each other in practice, shoulder to shoulder, with their hands behind the line coming out of starting blocks, that's a 7 to 9 week process for us. And you have to pass every stage before we let you progress to the next one, because you have to keep pushing. Okay. Now, I have a 42-week season. So 7 to 9 weeks, I have time to do that. It works out perfectly well. If I was a high school coach who had a 12 to 16-week season, I would shrink this progression to maybe 2 to 3 weeks, or 7 to 9 practices. Okay. But I would go through this same progression. Remember, if I was coaching your athletes, I wouldn't coach them any different than the way I coach mine. I had a group of children once. I coached them exactly the same as my Tennessee sprinters. Good coaching, good communication, installation of the proper idea from early stages, installation of the proper ideas from the earliest stages of training is always appropriate. So on day one, remember, 2 sets of 10, 20, 30. So we'll do something like this. Now notice, she's in a very nice athletic stance. And because of her left leg is forward, her right hand is way forward. Your hands have to be completely away from your rib cage when you sprint or when you accelerate. Your hands have no business being anywhere near mid-torso. Now, we did make one mistake on this. Her front foot should be on the line, not behind it. So that's not proper, but everything else is good. And then she'll push and run as hard as she can. And that's 15 meters. Okay, and if that first set is good, because remember, I've gone over with them, just like I did in the demonstration of the girl against the wall, because they know how to get in the proper on your marks position and a proper set position. If the first set from a crouch start goes well, on the first day, I may do the second set from a 4-point stance. So this is also day one, but now we're going to go from a 4-point stance. Now notice, excellent stance, front shin parallel to the ground, back thigh vertical, shoulders directly over the hands. Also notice something else that's crucial. Her front toe is on the line, and that's deliberate. That's essential. Okay. I don't want her behind the start line, because I don't want any associations of what she normally does and brings to me. I want her to grasp the new ideas that I'm presenting to her. So you have to kind of deconstruct the past a little bit to successfully install a new future. Really excellent intensity, and she's running through the cone. So you notice she's these are 15s. Now there is one thing here that is false. This is on the first day of practice, but she's running these in spikes. Okay. We would be in flats, but you're seeing, what we're doing would not change. So that's full disclosure. And I filmed all of these on the same day because I knew I was going to be presenting a video and I wanted the sequence to be clear. So we shot it all in one day. But we would take 7 to 9 weeks to go through this progression.
So you wouldn't put them in spikes until for a high school program like the 2 to 3 weeks?
Well, again, remember I said if it was a high school program, I would go through this entire progression in 7 to 9 practices, or 7 days to 1 week to 2 to 3 weeks, or 7 to 9 practices.
Right. All in
So
flats?
in other words, so the spikes would come on maybe when I get to phase 4 or 5. But phase 1, 2, and 3, that's going to take a while, a few days, a few practices. If we stabilize there, I'll let them start putting spikes on. But remember, at any stage, for example, if they're doing fine pushing in their flats, and then I put the spikes on and they get the bug and they stop listening and start getting quick because the spikes are on,
Yeah.
you remediate back. I'd make you take the spikes off, and you have to remediate and go through the progression again, showing what you're doing. And then when I give you the spikes back, you have to earn your spikes by pushing properly. And if you can't, we'll take the spikes off.
Okay. That makes sense.
Now that we've done starting from a 2-point crouch start and a 4-point stance, I'm now going to introduce a 3-point stance, because that is this is going to be week 2 for me. This is going to anticipate the 4x1 relay, and we start working on the 4x1 relay long before we ever start passing a baton. So this is a 3-point stance. You just get in a 4-point stance and raise the trigger hand. So her left foot is forward, so her left arm has to go back, but everything is the same. And once you see all 3 of these so far, the origin has been different. But once she moves, they're exactly the same. Acceleration is acceleration is acceleration is acceleration, regardless of the initial stance. Crouch start, rolling start, 4-point start, 3-point start. You push out of a good athletic posture in all cases. Okay, so now that we've got that, in week 3, we're going to actually do that in the relay zone itself, because this is coming. When we start 4x1 handoffs, they have to do this exactly like a regular acceleration, except, in other words, there'll be no crossover step, except they'll have one hand down for support and the other hand will be up as a trigger hand. So we physically put them in a zone and make them do this. So 2 sets of 10, 20, 30 in a relay zone. So we're beginning, I have a 42-week season. We start introducing 4x1 aspects in week 3. So if I had a 12 to 14, if I had a 12 to 16 week high school season, I would start introducing relay stances and relay accelerations, maybe in the third or fourth practice. I mean, you have to get into your mind where we're going with all this.
Mhm.
Not a block in sight so far. And she's sprinting. She's sprinting as fast as she can. By the way, this is a 400-meter specialist. And I deliberately chose her for this video because this is what we do with our 400-meter people and our 400 hurdlers. She is a 400-meter athlete. Now, she runs the 100 for us. She runs the 200 for us, but she is a 400-meter athlete. PR 52.56, PR on the 200, 23.30. But this is how we train our quarter milers as well as our sprinters. Okay, so now that we kind of have some basic acceleration stability, in week 3 or 4, now I will bring the blocks out. Okay, but you only get to use the front pedal. So we do rollover starts and they look like this. Now here's the setup. Notice the front pedal, she's only using one pedal, and the front pedal is on the start line. That's very critical. That's not accidental. That's damn deliberate. Okay. Now she'll rock back and tall, much like a long jumper coming out of the back. And then she'll roll over and, like we saw the Jamaican woman in the very first slide, violently extend from the front pedal, because it's easier to violently extend from your front pedal with a rollover start than it is from a static 4-point start. So that's why we're introducing this. We want the idea, we want them to get the feel of the violence we want them to achieve. Oh, sorry. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And that's what we're after. And she's trying to do that. Now, she didn't roll back like a long jumper, but you can. You can roll back and then rock forward and roll over the pedal to push off of it, and that's perfectly okay. So now that we've got the idea of the rollover start and knowing and the feeling of extension, we're now going to do half starts. And you notice the front pedal is still on the start line.
Does she have both pedals now?
Yes. Sorry.
Vince, we had a question on the relay zone work.
Yes.
Is there a specific foot position that you want them to have based on like a curve or a straightaway, or?
No, whatever foot is forward in the pedals goes forward in the relay lane. So if your left foot is forward, if your left foot is forward, your left hand has to be back. If your right foot is forward, your left hand has to be forward.
Okay.
but the angles are the exact same as so in other words, what you saw in the second slot, in the third acceleration video, she was in exactly the same position that she was on the straightaway. We
Okay.
just physically it's like put her in the position in the straightaway,
Mhm.
and we just physically put her in the lane.
Oh, okay.
Like
Okay.
there's no change at all. It's identical. It's the same.
Okay.
Vince, can I?
So look at that extension off the pedal. That's pretty good. So you can begin to see the commonality, and look at the big arm split, huge arm split, hands nowhere near the rib cage, almost full extension off the back knee. I mean, but you can see there's effort involved. And
You do
so
want the
you
big
sort of
arm split,
drop
right?
them, you just drop them, you just sort of drop them. And instead of falling like a noodle, you tell them, push up, don't fall, be athletic, overcome gravity, and get up and sprint. Yes, sir.
Okay, Andy.
Yeah, Vince, if you can, in the previous video, when you just had the front block, just to reiterate something that you said, if people look at the arm extended, the long lever, especially of the right arm, which helps, I believe, apply a force to that front pedal off the left
Absolutely.
leg.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's critical to get that kind of extension. You need some, strong arm action.
You
One of
need
the things,
a good cue, coach, that we use is make huge shapes with your hands. Make big shapes with your hands through the air.
yeah, and one of the other things I've thrown completely out of the vocabulary is the word quick. It has no place in sprinting. The whole concept of the word quick is the antithesis of sprinting, I think.
Oh, no, you're right, because it's a loaded word. I mean, and they've been told all their life, quick out of the blocks, and it's not.
Right.
And if you look at Bolt and you look at Lewis, who are the primary practitioners biomechanically, and all sprinters are essentially trying to do that, but they're the best at it. You can see it's they're going through the full range of motion. And the problem with the word quick is this. When athletes think that quick means that they have license to shorten the range of motion to increase quickness, and you don't. You have to, sprinting is the art of going through the full range of motion and applying violence. Now, if you go through the full range of motion, you may do so as quickly as you can, but you may not compromise the range of motion. So the compromise of the range of motion is where the problems come in. And when people say quick, that's where you get that little pity pat action that they do in front of their blocks before they sprint. Like that's the opposite of sprinting. So to produce displacement, you got to have big, hard motions. I thank you for that comment, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. All right, so now that have the half start, this might be week 5 or 6. Now we're down in a 4-point stance. I'll let them use the starting block, but only the front pedal. So notice, very nice on your marks. Beautiful set position, but only one pedal. She has the front pedal and it's on the line. It's not behind the line, it's on the start line. And that was fabulous.
Why do you use just the front pedal?
Because if you just stone cold give them two pedals, they can't function around metal, and their minds go blank and they go brain dead and they start doing weird stuff.
Okay.
So you have to bleed them into the responsibility, all the while demanding the push. If you just give them blocks, they'll go brain dead.
Right.
If we have time at the end, this is what we'll do. I don't want to take away what we're doing here, but if we have time at the end, I'll give you an anecdote that embodies that story. So, and if everybody's being honest, every coach that's listening who's coached sprinters before has had some version of the story that I will tell.
Okay.
And we know it to be true. And that's why I go through these efforts of making sure that they don't go brain dead.
Now we've got a question about, let's see, how do you go about making the range of motion more horizontal than vertical at this phase while pushing from
Oh, I want sprinting. It's pretty safe. Like, the pushing will take care of the horizontal component.
Okay.
I give all of my, and really to get that, these athletes are emphasizing the vertical component anyway to get that. Okay, for example, she's pushing. Okay, see the long axis of her body from her head to her left ankle? She's pushing in that direction. She's pushing up. She's not pushing parallel to the surface of the track.
That's right.
And athletes are way too wired to think and feel horizontally. And it's this precise pushing vertically through that post that makes proper sprinting feel so slow to an athlete who is used to being quick. It's very vertical. And so if you have to emphasize a directionality, and I tend not to talk much about directionality. I tend to talk more about pushing through the post with great effort. But if you are going to talk about directionality, you want to miss on the side of being too vertical. Like, you got to push vertically to put big forces into the ground. Because really, the only difference between this and what they're doing at max velocity is the body lean. If we took her and tilted her up another 45 degrees, that's pretty much how she'd look at support in max velocity, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, so what is next? So now she has both pedals. And now finally both pedals behind the line and hands behind the line. So it's taken us 7 to 9 weeks, 7 or so weeks to get here. Now there's still 2 stages after this. So now her hands are behind the start line. But they all look the same. So obviously the next rendition of this would be hands behind the start line, starting against somebody with a call. And to do that, they have to have a lane in between them. And then the final step is you're racing against someone in the next lane with a call. So you bleed things out to keep the pushing going on. Because if you just roll out the starting blocks and go, hey, boys, we're doing start today, it's a total disaster. And it is. So I hope that answers the question. That's kind of how we approach it.
Yeah, I
But
think
the key to the whole thing is this. If a coach doesn't have this idea and the athletes don't have this idea, before you begin, there's no hope that it will have the optimal outcome. And that has nothing to do with athlete ability. Because even athletes of average talent or less than average talent can still move properly with high intensities. And if they do, they'll surpass themselves, which is the purpose of any coaching, is to just make every person in your charge faster. So it begins with that idea and folds forward.
Okay, now we're getting a few questions here, so let me kind of catch up with those. Let's see, Jim, do you want to ask your questions?
Yes, ma'am. Coach, I was taught to have two spikes on the ground with my foot with the athlete's foot in the pedal. Is that correct or incorrect? I was
Well,
taught
okay. Okay. Well, the answer is yes. The biomechanical answer is yes, absolutely. Because if you do have, I call that an inch of toe on the track or an inch and a half of toe on the track. You have two spikes on the track. Okay. If you do that, you want to completely load your feet into the back pedal and it, the higher your toe climbs up on the pedal, and there's some athletes at the World Championship whose toe is like halfway up the pedal, the less you get your Achilles tendon on stretch, and we want the Achilles tendon on stretch. So Coach Tellez, the Tellesian, Ralph Mann, the two biomechanists would both agree that you have to have a bit of toe on the track to get the best stretch shortening response through your Achilles tendon, which is the most elastic part of your body. So the answer is yes, absolutely so.
is there a specific cue to teach an athlete how to load that?
Yes, if you push back, if you close your ankle joint and push back into the pedals hard, you'll literally feel the top of your pedal in the middle of your foot. And if you don't feel that, you haven't really loaded your pedals. I used to put a towel when they were on your marks. I used to put a towel. I used to hang a towel from. I'd stand behind the blocks and hang a towel down to where it was hanging on the face of the pedal. And when they loaded the pedal, I would try to pull the towel up. And if I couldn't pull the towel up, the pedal was properly loaded.
Thank you, sir.
So something of that nature. So notice sorry, I wanted to show you this. See how she really pushed her feet in there?
Yes, sir.
And she has about an inch of toe on the track, and her back heel and her front foot, her back heel and her front heel, that's loaded in the pedals. There's no airspace there between her shoe and the pedal, and she's got some pressure actually pushing in there. And the way you can really tell that, if someone does that, you'll get a stretch shortening response when they do move, when the gun fires, the back heel will fold over the pedal and back out with an elastic response. It's not a volitional response, it's an elastic response. Those are great questions. And I really appreciated Coach Ferrara's comments.
So now these tall gill pads those are counterproductive?
Yes, because, and here's the thing, you can't make an excuse because we're all coaches and we have to go with what's provided.
Mhm.
But the problem with those, remember, those were designed by engineers and they were designed by, blocks companies. They weren't designed by biomechanists or by track coaches. The long blocks restrict the stretch shortening response through your Achilles tendon, which is something we don't want to happen.
Yeah.
So, but if you do that, all these questions could go into these fabulously long digressions. But anyway, you got to load your foot into those pedals too, and push into them, and it's still all good. So
Okay.
I prefer the ones that are like this in the video that are traditionally sized. They're about, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches tall.
Right.
Instead of the ones that go all the way up, because we having an Achilles tendon stretch in the pedals is extremely desirable in sprinting.
Well, that's what I thought. And then they come up with these ones that seem to be opposite of what we were taught. So,
Yeah.
Anthony Thompson, you have a question for Coach?
Yes, hello. I do have a question.
Oh,
Hey, by the way, I coached an athlete named Anthony Thompson. Man, I love that guy. He was from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hey, go on.
Yes, it's his fellow assistant coach talking for him. I'm Alexia. I just had a question. So say that you have an athlete that has like really good front foot extension, but their back foot lags and gets stuck on the pad. Is there any type of exercises or cues that you give an athlete to help them, pull that back foot off the pad faster?
Okay, first of all, you don't want them to pull the foot off the pad. That's
Okay.
exactly the opposite. You want them pushing into the pad as hard as they
Right.
can, like they do on a vertical jump.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
the back pedal will just repel their foot elastically. So don't pull your foot off the pad. You have to jump with both feet into the pedals and stay on the pedals as long as you can. The pedals will throw you. Okay, think of it this way.
Mm-hmm.
When you do a vertical jump, which any human being can do, you're
Right.
pushing in, you're not lifting your feet off of the floor. You're pushing into the floor as long as you can, and the floor repels you. Like when I do a vertical jump, I'm staying on the ground as long as I can. The ground throws me. That's what you're doing in starting blocks. So the cue for what you're talking about, don't have him pull his foot out of there at all. Jump with both feet as hard as he can into the pedals and stay on them as long as he can. The pedals will throw him.
Okay.
It's
Vince,
like, okay. Here's the corollary that for max velocity. The worst thing you can do is tell a sprinter, lift. It's the worst cue of all time. When someone appears to be lifting their knees, they're not lifting their knees at all. They're stepping down violently through the surface of the track. And the recovery that you see that is so beautiful is elastic in nature. So sprinters who have that good sort of lifty kind of look, they're not lifting at all. They're violently stepping down, and what you're seeing is the beautiful elastic response. So
Right.
apply force violently, let the elastic response be.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left, Vince, as to how you want to finish up or tell the story or whatever fits your
The
timeline.
story short, and then we have time for even more questions. But okay, so here,
It's-
okay. So one year I was fortunate to coach a sophomore who was NCAA champion at the 100 as a freshman, and a junior who was NCAA champion at the 60 as a sophomore, and another sophomore who was fourth at NCAA in the 100 behind the other guy. So I had a fourth, and he was almost third by 100th of a second or something. So I had a guy who was first defending champ in that 100, defending champ indoors in the 60, and returning fourth place guy in the 100. And I rolled the blocks out for our first start session of the year. Now, we'd been working on acceleration, of course. I didn't just bring them out day one. Like this was the time where we, brought the blocks out. So this is probably about week, 7, week 6, something like that. And it was dog poo poo. It was dog poo poo. I'm like, guys, get it together. Let's go. Got to push. And it was more of the same. And I'm getting angry, and I'm really getting angry. I'm saying, guys, if you don't get it together, I'm going to pull the blocks, and it just persisted, and so finally frustrated, I'm mad. I kept my cool. And because I'm a sucker for punishment and I knew what I was going to get, but again, remember, we're always doing market research. We're making certain that we're in the right space, making the right decision. So I'm a sucker for punishment. So I knew what I was going to get. I asked him, I said, okay, now practice is over. Get over here. And so the 4 of us are talking kind of in a circle. And I said, all right, now do not bullshit me. Tell me what's going on. Tell me exactly what's going on. I know what's going on, but I need to hear it from your mouth. And, Justin and Leonard, kind of shuffling around and too shy to say something. And Sean says, Coach, you brought out the blocks. It's time to go. And I said, that's exactly right. And these were very experienced. As soon as I brought out the blocks and lined them up against each other, the brain went dead.
Mm.
And you can't allow that dysfunction, that wild ass wrong stuff to enter into the training formula, because they have to be good out of blocks under pressure when it's time to perform. And the way they learn that is in practice. And getting geeked up doesn't mean to, because all they were doing is just spinning out and trying to beat each other to the 10-meter mark. And it was horrible. They weren't pushing, they weren't handling their business. And I had to call them on it. And the next practice, they got it straight. But you bring out the blocks, that's what happens. They go blind.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I can
Coach,
see that.
Coach, you brought out the blocks. It's time to go. Violated everything in the whole. They had been fabulous all fall, and couldn't handle it that day.
Is that something like when you do have several elite people at whatever level you're at, should they be racing each other in practice? Is that part of the problem?
What they should be doing is running their own race violently. The way you put huge pressure on someone else is to run your race. The danger comes when you fall into other people's patterns.
Yep.
Okay, so if you want to put heavy pressure on someone, violently drive your drive in your lane. You handle your business. You take care of you first. That's the way you put pressure on someone, not by responding to their dysfunction. And there's a difference.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. Interesting. Jerome, you've got a quick question here for Coach? It might not be quick here. Let's see. Jerome, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay.
Coach, what drills or exercises do you do to help to teach these athletes to produce force?
I just coach effort.
Okay.
Okay. I step down from above is my big cue.
Okay.
In max velocity, okay, internally to the sprinter. Sprinting feels exactly, this is when there's no body lean anymore, when they're vertical, when they're at max velocity, say 65, 70 meters into 100.
Right.
Sprinting feels exactly like marching in place, not kind of like marching in place, not sort of like marching in place, not vaguely reminds me of marching in place. It feels exactly like marching in place. Now, very violently marching, very athletically marching. Like if you look at Bolt's 958 and you look at him at 70 to 80 meters, it's breathtaking. And all he's doing is marching. Now, he's marching very, very violently and with unbelievable athletic ability, but he's marching. That's all he's doing is stepping down from above. And most of your athletes and most of my athletes, they'll want to, at that point of the race, they'll want to stride out because that's what's in their brain. And striding is the opposite of sprinting. It's the sworn enemy of sprinting. You have to step down violently in place to push yourself straight up. Bolt isn't trying to go that way. He's trying to go that way. The horizontal component is inherent in that point of the race. That's why you took so long to push and drive and push and drive and push and drive. And then when you do get up, you're pushing straight down to push yourself straight up. So stepping down from above, marching in place, striking through the surface of the track, not to the surface of the track. All of those are good cues.
Excellent. Okay, we've got 3 more here. Let's see. Jim, you've got a question?
Yes, Coach, I changed my cue from lifting the knee to put the non-support heel at the opposite knee. Is that a correct position?
No, because that's still a lifting cue. What you have to say, step down from above, step down through the surface of the track. Like what you'll do sometime is you'll tell people that sprinting feels like marching in place. So I have them march in place first, and a few of them will be stomping. Okay. Well, the stompers are the one who are pushing to the surface of the track, not through it. So you have to say step down from above through the surface of the track.
Excellent. Kelvin,
Thanks, Coach.
you want to finish us off here tonight, please?
Yes. Hey, Coach, how you doing? Kelvin here. Nice seeing you again.
Good seeing you.
How do you work with the low heel displacement in this drill?
How do you work with no heel displacement?
The low heel displacement.
Oh, well, all right. This is okay. If we have to assume for a minute that someone knows their biomechanics and they're asking for the right thing, okay. You see people dragging their toe. Now, this is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want the toe drag. The toe drag in and of itself is undesirable because why would you ever why would you ever introduce friction into the recovery equation if you didn't have to? So Bolt drags his toe. Lewis has low heel recovery without dragging his toe on the track. Okay, so let's assume that we're in the hands of a really good coach. Okay. The coach doesn't want the toe drag. He wants the low heel recovery. And the toe drag is simply a poor man's way of ensuring heel recovery. Because if my toe is on the track, my heel recovery will be low. I want the low heel recovery. In a perfect world, I want the low heel recovery without dragging the toe on the track, a la Lewis. But the low heel recovery is what's valuable. So I have athletes who cannot feel a low heel recovery on their own. So as a elementary school physical education teacher, I tell them, I don't want you to drag your toe to drag the toe. I want you to drag your toe to feel the low heel recovery. And when you feel the heel recovery, I want you to take that movement over without the friction. And that's how we progress. So low heel recovery, very desirable and essential in terms of biomechanical recovery to the front side and back into the track. Okay. So the toe drag in and of itself is an affectation. So as long as you're using it as a means to wean them into low heel recovery, it's a good thing. Toe dragging for toe dragging's sake, or because you see the Jamaicans do it without understanding what's going on, is a fool's errand.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you.
That's
that
an
make
excellent
sense?
way. Excellent way to definitely. Vince, do you have another clinic coming up soon?
I do not. If I do one, it'll be in the fall. And I tell you what would really help, because I don't want to be a pain in the butt or anything. But like if there's interest in that, like I put together this 18-hour program that had over 2 days that had 12 hours of content.
Mm-hmm.
Two 1.5 hour lunch breaks and, several 15-minute breaks between talks. And it went over really, really well. But I didn't want to do it this fall. But if there's interest in that, my idea was to do one in Houston and one in Dallas, so neither community has to commute too much. And if people are interested in that, I mean, they can shoot me an email at hurdlesprint@gmail.com and I can kind of put one together. But I don't want to really do it unless there's some interest in it. And my idea, I charge a lot, like $275 when I do it, but man, it's not a clinic. I mean, we go deep into it. Like I say, it's 12 hours of content spread over a spread over a 10-hour first day and a 6-hour second day. Sorry, 12 hours of content in a 16-hour session. So a 10-hour day one, 6-hour day two, of which 12 of that is pure content, and the rest is breaks and lunch break.
Yeah, no, it's
So
excellent because luckily you did it on Zoom for us one time, and I was able to get that.
Yes.
So thank you so very much. I wasn't sure if you had another in person, but again, these are just awesome, information. We carry it to every level. I appreciate you modifying back and forth between high school schedules and the open schedule and so forth, because that way it is able for us to apply it right away. So
Sure.
thank you
Sure,
so
because
very much.
what people have to remember, Sue, it's all proportional. Like
Yeah.
if when you have 42 weeks, you can, but if I'm taking this 7 weeks at the front end over 42, you got to take the same amount of time over your 12. It's all proportional. You can't eliminate steps because you have a shorter time.
Very true.
And
Very true.
and my email address is hurdlesprint, one word, HURDLE sprint@gmail.com if anyone wants to email me. And I thank you, Sue, for all you do. You're an awesome coach and provider of information and a great teacher, and we appreciate everything you do. And thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Again, we will not be having a call next week. I'll let everybody know that, or I'll post that. And in 2 weeks, we will return. So happy evening here for you. And again, good luck this weekend if you have a meet. So thanks again, everybody, and thank
Thank
you so
you.
much, Vince.
Take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Coach.
Thanks,
Thank
Coach.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.